Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise to take a call on the Land Transport Amendment Bill and acknowledge the contribution of my parliamentary colleague opposite, Chris Oakenfold, who talked about the great unanimity. And normally, of course, in the ordinary course of events, that would be an opportunity for me to stand up and say, well, a complete scumbag he is, to make such an outrageous claim. But, of course, that would be wrong, because there was a considerable degree of cohesion of thinking around this piece of legislation, because I think we all share the concern about the issue of driving under the influence. And we've known for some time, it's been apparent for some time, that the thresholds that we've been operating under simply are not enough to deter people from getting behind the wheel when they've had not just a couple, but significantly more than a couple. And of course, we've seen the TV programs showing people who have had significantly more than a couple and who are testing below the existing threshold. So changing the threshold is a sensible move. It's been Labor Party policy for some time, and my colleague Ian Lees-Galloway has been promoting that move for some years, and so it is good to see that is now happening. So this bill enacts that particular aspect of it. It does a few other things. It slightly complicates the issue, because we now have this threshold, the 250 milligram threshold and the 400 milligram threshold. And so if you are in breach of the law between 250 and 400 milligrams, a set of consequences follow and a set of rights ensue, but not the same number of rights and consequences or the same magnitude of rights and consequences as would ensue if you are found to be over 400 milligrams of alcohol in the blood, or the breath alcohol content. So I think, and there is one aspect that I have to confess, notwithstanding the almost unanimous view of the Select Committee, and notwithstanding the views expressed by New Zealand First today, there is one aspect that still does cause me some concern, and that is the fact that a person who has been pulled over and tested, breath tested by an officer, is liable for the cost of a blood test, irrespective of whether they are found to be over or under the relevant limit. Now, it is true that the bill says that the officer administering the test has some discretion about whether or not to impose the testing fee on a person who is found to be under the statutory threshold. But that's left up to the officer. And I mean, no doubt for officers who are dealing with a stroppy individual, and there are a fair few of them, I can imagine the odd lawyer who was stopped. In fact, there are a few of them, because they appear before the Laws Disciplinary Committee frequently. They can argue the point, and that can be offensive to an officer trying to act in the execution of their duty. But it just seems to me an unusual thing to leave at the discretion of the police officer on the beat. And I also am concerned that somebody who is innocent, who is confident that they are not over the threshold, may still be liable for a cost. In a sense, they are being asked to pay for the cost of proving their innocence. And that offends against a pretty basic principle, the right to be treated innocent until proven guilty. Of course, there will be others, and experienced officers will know when they are dealing with people who are over the limit, whose attempts to resist blood tests and others, or certainly evidential breath tests, will be trying it on, and of course the officer must be free to exercise their professional skills to ensure that they persuade such a person to undergo the relevant test. But I just draw attention to that part, and no doubt we will consider it and see whether or not, through the committee stages, whether that is something that might lend itself to some improvement. But notwithstanding that, Mr Speaker, the bill otherwise achieves the policy objective that we all want, which is to reduce the thresholds of breath and blood alcohol when it comes to testing for impairment for people behind the wheel, because the reality is we do have a an unfortunate, somewhat shameful track record of traffic accidents, some fatal, many causing serious injury, where the root cause is people driving under the influence of alcohol. We do, we do have to get on top of that problem. We know that when we went through the alcohol law reform legislation, this issue was adverted to at length. The government didn't see it as necessary to do anything about it at that point, but we now have this bill here. We do have to get on top of that shameful record that we have of alcohol abuse by those who then put themselves in control of a motor vehicle. And we have to send that signal that the thresholds are lower, that actually the tolerance for drinking and then driving straight afterwards is very low. There will be those who say, listen, one or two, and you're fine to hit the road. There will be some for whom even 1 or 2 may be a step too far. But I think with this bill, with lowering the thresholds and the regime that it sets up, notwithstanding the issue that I've raised, it is a responsible step forward to ensure that we have safer roads and safer drivers behind our wheels.
I call Dr Cam Calder.
Mr Speaker, as a junior doctor working in A&E, far too much of my time was spent patching up people who had been injured as a result of alcohol-related violence and accidents.